It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for this morning's session, Bill Baker. For those that don't know, Bill Baker is recognized internationally for his work in branding and marketing countries, cities, and regions. With more than 30 years' experience in over 25 countries, Bill has developed successful tourism and economic development strategies for dozens of locations throughout the United States and Australia. He has also been directly involved in shaping some of the most respected destination branding campaigns in the U.S., including Australia's highly acclaimed Shrimp on the Barbie, which he directed for 7 years. He has produced tourism strategies for the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games and has been asked to provide strategic counsel to destinations around the world, including Hong Kong, Guam, India, and Saudi Arabia, as well as Australia's global branding and integrated marketing campaigns. His book, Destination Branding for Small Cities, has drawn praise from practitioners, academics, and destination marketers worldwide. In rural Utah, we understand how important it is for our communities to have a brand and an identity. While today we do have the expert with us, and we are excited to hear from him and what he has to share, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Bill Baker.
Good morning. This is me, Bill Baker. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and you probably picked that up already from my accent. As you heard, we specialize in the branding and marketing of places, cities, countries, downtowns, all types and varieties. My book, Destination Branding for Small Cities, it's now in its 8th year and is still a bestseller on Amazon. We're going to have to do a reprint shortly and may even have to update my photograph in there. What we're going to look at today is simplifying branding. There's so many misconceptions about it. Many communities go down the wrong path in addressing it. So we're going to be looking at the basics. The simple, you don't need an MBA to really understand this stuff. The more people in your community that understand it, the more successful you're going to be. What is place branding? Is it really something small cities should be looking at? What are the benefits of place branding? What are the pitfalls? And who can we learn from? As you heard, I've worked in many places around the world, but these days, much of my time has been spent in the marketing and branding of places within the United States. Our most recent project we're completing at the moment is in beautiful Sitka, Alaska. I'm going to get a little bit of help today from some of our past clients, Carrie Westland in Lane County, Oregon, and John Cooper in the Yakima Valley in Washington, a great agricultural area. Whether you're in a small community, a county, or a country, it's a very, very loud and crowded world out there. Just simply trying to get attention and to tell your story is increasingly harder. Whether you like it, all places are competing. Whether you like it or not, you've got to be competing. Ambitious places of all kinds are competing for relevance. Why should anyone care about your community? For respect and for your reputation. That's what you trade on. They're the most valuable assets of your community. Those things influence everything. Whether people want to come and live there, whether they want to come and visit, how much they want to invest there, whether you can attract the talented people that you want. It goes back to these basics. What the price of a block of land is in your community is influenced by these factors. Is this the kind of place where you want to send your kids to school or to university? It rubs off onto the kind of products that originate in the location. Is this the kind of place I want to open a new business? The kind of place I want to go shopping? Have you noticed how some communities always find their ways into the right circles? It's easier for them to get a seat at the table. It goes back to these things. Their relevance, the respect, the reputation. Is this the kind of place we want to partner with. We don't want any weak partners on our team. We want strong partners on our team. So all of these factors contribute in many, many ways to the vibrancy and future of your community. You already have an organic brand of some description. The problem is it might not be the one you want. And if you don't take steps to manage your image, manage your identity, manage your brand, it's going to be done for you by the media and by your competitors. You'll be constantly playing catch-up. You've got a lot of competition out there. Over 20,000 incorporated cities in the United States, 3,500 counties, not to mention all of the other kinds of developments that are out there clamouring for attention, clamouring for their share. This is all about market share. Market share. You've got to win off somebody else to win most of the time. Why is your city relevant? Why does it matter to people who may be in your target group? Why should they care? How do you find the spot in the game where you can play and where you can win? The important thing is to be playing in the right game as well. Don't play where you don't belong. Play in the places where your limited resources are going to deliver the greatest bang for you. Every day we are bombarded with 3,000 to 4,000 marketing messages of some description. We see them in the most subtle ways. Now we're swamped with millions of new web pages every day, Facebook, Twitter, all kinds of new things are being invented. Okay? I'm not going to do all the work in this. You've got to do a little bit of work to help me out. How do we react as consumers? What do you do? You like this stuff? What do you do? But when you're getting all of these messages thrown at you, what are you doing? You ignore most of them, but you can't ignore all of them, can you? So you've got to start filtering, haven't you? Yeah, right. So what does this mean? For you as place marketers in some sense, your marketing budget is shrinking. You've got so many media choices out there from which to choose from. Consumers are changing their habits and behaviour. This becomes a bit of a nightmare for you as a place marketer, trying to get through all this forest of noise that's out there. As place marketers, what have you got to do to cut through this clutter? Right audience is very, very important. Probably job number one. Who are we trying to reach? What else have you got to do? We've got to make it easy for people. We have to stand out and differentiate ourselves. Much greater simplicity. Don't try and give people all the information. We'll just block it out. You'll be amongst those that get blocked out. Make it simple. It has to be better, connecting to people, and it's got to be relevant. Again, it goes back to your point, the target audience and what's important to them. You've got to fine and tune and hone the message. You don't tell people the whole story straight off. The solution is you have to take a branded approach. That's what branding is about. It's making the choices easier for people. What is a brand? We're hit with them all day long. We're used to hearing about them in the consumer domain, but now we've got them regarding places. How many of you have teenagers or 20-something children? Right, okay. I have a test for you. I have a beautiful t-shirt here, black, nice number, all cotton, made in America, $16. Good deal, great deal. Or we could put a logo on it of I Love New York for $28. Same t-shirt We're just going to put a logo on there, right? Charge a bit more for it. Or do you think your kids would prefer this one for $42? Which one? But it's the same T-shirt. What are they buying? What are they buying? Image. Yeah, what else about it? It's a brand. What's it do for them? Sorry? Makes them cool. Yeah. I'm part of the tribe. I belong. I'm cool. Okay? All intangibles. Got nothing to do with the logical side of things, the cotton T-shirt, and this all becomes important to us as we move forward. In marketing and branding many of our communities, we're selling black T-shirts. We're selling black T-shirts. Branding is more than a logo, it's more than a tagline, it's much more than an advertising campaign. Too often, place branding gets caught up in advertising campaigns, and nations and states are the worst offenders in that by calling their ad campaign their brand, and it's not. It's more about the impressions that are on the customer's mind. That's what's more important. Think of the black T-shirt. A true brand must make a single-minded promise and then deliver on it. You must deliver on it. A brand is the difference between a nice glass of generic cola, that fizzy brown liquid, and when you know you're getting a can of Pepsi or Coke. Okay? It's that difference that you're getting. Okay? It's the difference between a restaurant and Wendy's, or Applebee's, or Chili's. They all bring different associations to mind. It's the difference between a city, a generic city, and Chicago, or Cedar City, or Moab, or Santa Fe. They all bring different associations to mind. Doesn't always necessarily mean they've got to be positive associations. Your challenge is to make as many of those associations as positive and as relevant as you can. A brand is an aura. It's an invisible layer of meaning that surrounds things. It's intangible. Okay? We can also think of it as being the anticipation of the brand. It's a gut feel they have about your place. Might not exactly be what you are, but that's the feeling that people have beforehand. What is a place brand? Well, we can attach it to downtown precincts, to cities and towns, to byways and scenic routes. They can all be branded in some way. Or a region or a county, a state or a province, or a nation. Okay, we can apply it to all of those. But specifically, a place brand is the valued promise. It's not just a promise, it's got to be valued of what we can expect when we travel to or invest money in a place. Okay? But the factor is, it can only be as good as the experience that it delivers. You can't be any better than what you deliver. Your brand can be no better than that. You're going to get caught out if you start boasting, bragging about it. You've got to keep it real. Why bother with branding? Firstly, it helps you clearly differentiate yourself. Focus on what makes you special, your competitive advantage. It helps you build unity and leverage. It gets everybody onto the same page. Well, hopefully you can get them all onto the same page. Okay? Make better connections with customers. Start connecting with them on an emotional level. We'll touch on that a bit later. Start to address out-of-date perceptions. We're very lazy thinkers. Many times our thoughts of a community or a city is lagging 10 to 20 years behind the reality of what that place is. Think Detroit, or think Cleveland particularly, places like that. It gives you improved ROI, return on investment for your marketing, makes it much more efficient. You have a set playbook. You know what you are. You know what you're not. You don't keep reinventing the wheel. Importantly, a brand strategy is your guidance system. It's the guidance system for helping you become competitive. That's what it's about. Search engines, love them or hate them, they rule much of our life in the marketing world. But search engines love brands. It affects how they're going to rank you. A poor and inconsistent branding means you're going to get poor web presence. If you're not consistent, if you're not focused, you're not going to do as well. They're very clever, these things. And this relates whether you've got a big community or a small community. It doesn't matter. It's going to treat you the same. You've got to be clear. The Google algorithm, it's looking for sites that are trustworthy, have a good reputation, there's that word again, and some authority in a specific field. Okay? It might be quilting, it might be mountain biking, it might be surfing. You will come, and when you're making it clear about what you're about, that helps the search engines. They love to know who you are because it affects, your target audiences have got to be very clear, why you are different, your messaging, and why you should be the preferred one. It all relates back to the brand. The golden rule of branding is focus and consistency. The challenge for you is focus on what? That becomes the challenge. That's the first thing you have to define. Who are you as a brand?
Some of the things that we're able to do because of our strategic branding work that we really were not able to do before is truly prioritize. We always made a good attempt, as every good destination marketer does, at kind of setting out our strategic priorities. But the brand work that we've done really gives us a concrete platform to work from. And it does help us say, no, we can't do everything, and these are the most important things for us to do. And it has guided us tremendously in putting a lot of energy toward the most important things.
Branding is about prioritization. It's about organizing. Think of your favorite brands and how they eventually deliver their products, their services, and what you know about them. It's through prioritizing. The question for you in setting out is, do we have the right target audience? Do we have the right positioning, the right experiences? These are the things that you lead with. You can't be all things to all people. Do we have the right products, the right colours, the words and the phrases? Is this the right tone and personality? The right style, the right typeface, the right images and videos? Importantly, do we have the right emotional benefits in our copy, the images, the videos and the audio? And are we delivering the right experiences at the key touch points? Okay? This is part of the guidance system. It helps simplify things not only for the customer, but for you. That when you're doing whatever you're doing, you know who you are. You know what you're trying to achieve within this. Again, it's your guidance system. An additional benefit coming from, in this case, tourism branding, is if we look at what happened in North Dakota. I guess many of you are familiar with North Dakota's advertising. But there's benefits that they've discovered that go way beyond tourism. And they've found that in the research by Longwoods, that those exposed to the North Dakota brand and advertising see it as a more favourable place to live, to start a business, to start a career, to attend college, to purchase a second home, and to retire. I mean, some of those figures are just incredible. But we like to live, we like to work in places we like. Places that provide us with the kinds of enjoyment on the weekends and such that we like to do. We gravitate toward them. What they've discovered is looking at the advertising of other states, and they're finding the same kind of results being played out. The correlation between tourism advertising and branding and the other site relocation and other economic development benefits. Oxford Economics, a London-based organisation, has done a research project of over 200 US cities over the past 20 years and found that those that are focused on their brand marketing see a higher growth in employment and spending beyond the tourism sector. 33% of new residents had first visited the area. 37% of site selection executives' image of an area was formed by an initial visit there. The critical thing for many communities is to make sure that work with the captive audience you've got in your showroom. You don't always have to chase people around the world or around the United States. Many of them are visiting your showroom, that is your community, without you knowing it. You have to make it easier for them to get into your sales process for economic development. Let's have a look at some of the pitfalls. Number one, no prize for guessing that. So many occasions we find that communities can't, well, they start a process and they think that all the brand is going to be about is a new tagline and a logo. A logo and a tagline are not advertising, not brands, as I've said before. They're really just cues or reminders of what the positive thoughts are, hopefully, of what people remember, okay? Another way of thinking of it, I like to think of them as keys to a filing cabinet. The important thing for you is not the key, but what have you put in the filing cabinet? What are the other messages and experience that you've exposed people to? Don't get hung up on the key. A key is useless. A logo and a tagline is useless unless people have other associations with your place, okay? Invest in this other side, not in this side.
A lot of times communities think branding is all about a logo and a slogan. And while done well, a logo and a slogan can convey the brand, it's not the brand. Branding is all about what people think and feel about a destination or an attraction. For example, when you think of Disneyland, you don't necessarily think of their slogan, but you think about how Disneyland makes you feel, the experiences you have with that destination, whether you've been there or not. Now, their slogan is, it's the happiest place on earth, but it's not so much that attracts you, it's how it makes you feel. It makes you feel happy. It's what you think of when you think of that place. And that is what branding's all about. It's getting into the minds and the heart of the consumer and conveying the message. It's not all about a slogan and a logo.
Another major pitfall is communities that are trying to be something that they're not. You're not going to get away with it for very long, like this poor rooster on here. I know that Utah really would love to project itself as a beautiful, pristine beach location with wonderful seafood and sailing opportunities. And this is very Utah. It's a new image that we actually have for Salt Lake. It'll go very well there. But if this is the image, this is the promise that you are projecting to people, and the reality is something very different, you've got a problem. We have to look also at brand identity and brand image are two different things. The brand identity is how you want the world to perceive you, okay? It's how we wish to do our hair or our nails or what. That's the identity we wish to project. The image is how the world sees you. And you've got to keep those things in harmony or you've got a little bit of a problem. This is what you're trying to get. So you've got to make sure that the brand strategy, you're looking at not just making a bold promise. You've got to be able to deliver on that as well. And you have to align these things in this process so you're not getting out of sync. Okay? So the promise has got to equal the actual experience. The other thought is that you've got to have a big advertising budget to go into branding and things. It's really not for us. Advertising is one element of what can help create a brand. But when we look at, say, let's look at Disney. Let's look at Disneyland. What's the number one performance measure of all Disney theme park, their units? Main Street, Adventureland, Adultland, whatever lands they've got out there. What's the number one performance measure that they have? Sorry? Attendance? Yep, that's important. What else? Seasons? Yeah. Yeah, what else? Sorry? Very good. Return. The guest's intent to return. Think about what that embodies. That does everything you're saying into one thing. Was this good enough for you to come back to? Or recommend it to other people? This is measured every day. It's sent daily to executives. It really gets their attention because it's the most heavily weighted metric in their remuneration, executive remuneration. So it really gets their attention. Important for us is that this guest experience, they've shown, is 6 times more important, more influential than advertising. That actual experience there. So it's actually cheaper and more profitable to focus on the experience delivery than on advertising. A very strong message there for your communities as well. I like these words from Michael Eisner, the former CEO of Disney. Our brand is a living entity, and it is enriched or undermined cumulatively over time. The product of thousands of small gestures. Okay? Everyone within Disney theme parks, within Disney, is responsible for the brand in some way or another. Small gestures, large gestures, all part of it. But the small things can build you or take you down very easily. Another one that communities find very hard is positioning. This is where leadership has to come into it. You have to dare to be different. It's so easy to be common and bland. Okay? What is positioning? It provides a distinctive place in the customer's mind. It's the part you want to own. When they think of your town, this is what they're going to think of. You want to own those thoughts. It differentiates you from competitors. But it has to differentiate you in ways that are important, meaningful, and valued. Just because you may be the left-handed knitting capital of Utah doesn't really matter. It has to be meaningful and it has to be valued. Just being different isn't enough. Okay? This isn't easy. But it's an important point to get because this is the foundation of your competitive advantage. Okay?
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing. You stick to that and everything else don't mean.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
And figuring that out is the trickiest part of this whole job. Sometimes you can figure it out and get it, but actually getting approval for it to do it is the other point. Okay? To find that one thing, what you've got to look for is aligning your greatest community assets, your greatest strengths, with what the competition can't easily match. Okay? And it's also got to be meaningful. It's got to be something that customers are looking for, willing to travel for, willing to spend money on. But no matter where you end up, it must align with your community values. It's locked into what you want to become as a community as well. You've constantly got to be assessing it and looking at it. Now, is this thing desirable? Do people really want it? Is it different? Or can someone else do this better than we can? Is this closer to our home market that someone else has got? We move on, we have to find something else. Is it deliverable? Can we consistently do? Can we sustain this into the future? Is it scalable? Can we build other businesses and industries on this? Can it help us attract new businesses using this? Is it just a fad that's going to die quickly? Or is this something we can ride out for quite a while? Is it a rallying point where we can get the community and our major stakeholders together behind this? Okay. Unfortunately, too often, positioning for cities, I'm very positive here, is bland, it's meaningless, it's fluff, hype, it's forgettable, it's not a foundation, and it's not a rallying point. This is your biggest challenge, getting past these kinds of disruptions to get to your true heart of what is going to resonate with your key audiences. Okay? It goes back to your objectives in the first place. Too often we see these things done for communities and they're not going to work 50 yards out of town. Too often it's communities talking to themselves. Why do you think positioning, aiming and getting that, it might be several things, but that one thing, so to speak, why is this the trickiest part of place branding? Any thoughts? I know it would never happen in any of your communities. Any thoughts? Okay. Self-interest. I can't see myself in that. My business is not quite in that. A lack of customer focus, not thinking about the customer. Who is the customer? Are they going to be interested in this? Trying to keep everyone happy is a dead set killer. You can't keep everybody happy. It ends up being bland and diluted and watered down to please everybody. We've got it all. No, you haven't. Not even New York City's got it all. It doesn't have ski fields. Nobody's got it all. What do you stand for? I know there'd be no political interference, so I'll skip over that one. Parochialism, unclear thinking, a lack of courage and leadership. Don't fall for the trap of the 3 letters to the editor syndrome or comments on a blog problem we have today. Okay? There's always going to be some people out there who are going to complain, and there's always going to be people who are going to say, my kindergarten kid could do a better logo than that. Okay? I think that baseball gives a terrific analogy for a lot of these things. When we look at baseball, during the week or before the big game, the media attention is on that duel between the great pitchers and the great batters. Okay? That's what the focus is on. The fight, the struggle, the game. Those guys get paid millions of dollars a year. Millions of dollars a year, and they get the publicity. There's also other people up in the stands that get millions of dollars a year, and they're the concessionaires for the hot dogs and the beer. Could you imagine how many people are going to turn up to the game if the publicity is on the beer and hot dogs? Not many people are going to turn up. Okay? Both of these are needed for that great American experience of baseball. Beer, hot dog, I'm sorry, I forgot I'm in Utah. Your favourite soft drink and hot dogs. I got my states mixed up for a while. But you know what I'm saying. Well, you don't have a major. Oh, you don't have a Major League Baseball team here. The problem is that too many communities are focused on advertising and promoting their hot dog and beer vendors or soft drink vendors, and not on their best pitchers and batters. Okay. The important thing is that there's a time to promote both of them, okay? You've got to promote your best pitchers and batters to get people to the game. When they're at the game, that's when you start promoting all of the other things. And we see this time and again with communities. They get them all mixed up. You've got to lead with your greatest assets. Attract, disperse.
So we went from a Sea Olive, Oregon in Lane County to real adventures real close. And the core essence of our brand strategy are very approachable, accessible adventures for all ages, all abilities, and really close by. It's a key attribute that we have that is maybe a little bit different from most destinations. You know, we are blessed as destination marketers to have so many robust tools related to technology now that at some point you do get to tell everyone's story. You may not always lead with their story, but you can work with just about every stakeholder on the passions that they have and the products that they have and the services that they have available to visitors. So we find ways to please all of our stakeholders, even if we're not perking them up into the lead story that we're telling around our adventure product.
I'll just take a quick look at one of the projects we've worked on recently, which was in Tillamook County in Oregon. It was a region that was very, very fragmented, conflicting messages coming out of there. The county has a population of about 25,000, quite a large area. 8 small competing cities and, might I add, competing destinations, fighting over their share of the pie. They had no history of collaboration. The county name wasn't helpful either, because who travels to a county as a destination? They'd done no regional marketing and no common messages. Where we settled with them on their positioning was that it was Oregon's most diverse and varied combination of marine and rainforest experiences. And we encapsulated that in the line, "It's the natural choice," because some of their competitors are way more urbanised. Very attractive palette there, but it was really centred on nature tourism and coastal nature tourism experiences. But it drew together these 8 cities under a common umbrella where they could each maintain their own identity. But they're a family, and they are all very similar. They share the same DNA across all of them, but they were fighting with each other. What they've found is the collaboration in promoting this county brand is working for them. Also coming down into wayfinding, designating the boundaries of the region, so even the residents are seeing it and becoming identified with what we have now termed the Tillamook Coast. The new destination name has been universally adopted. It only rolled out at the start of this year. Already in the first quarter this year, they made a gain of 6% in market share against their neighbouring counties. So it's off to a very good start and good demonstration of working together pays a lot of benefit. Another pitfall is that branding isn't for small cities. The fact is, it's probably even more important. You have way less margin for error. You don't have the megaphone that larger places have and can put across a message, whether that message is entirely accurate or not. You must deliver memorable experiences. On most occasions, you're only going to get one shot, and you've got to make sure that it's your best shot. Again, going back to what this is about. This is about getting all of the ducks in a row, from your right markets through the right communications, so that you're not constantly reinventing the wheel every other month when it comes to your marketing programs and the investments you want to make within the community. A good example for us is Oak Ridge in Oregon. Very poor positioning. We were doing what we call a visitor readiness report there. It wasn't a true brand strategy. But one of the things we found there is that the city was absolutely decimated by the decline of the timber industry. But the good thing is they were left with 500 miles of forest roads. Quite amazing. Great disunity, no focus, and they were marketing themselves as the centre of Oregon recreation. Now, just about every place in Oregon is about outdoor recreation. No differentiation there whatsoever. We repositioned them as the most challenging mountain bike trails in the Northwest. Still getting all the other recreation, but this is what they're known for. I might add, we did not design the logo, but they've ended up as being the mountain biking capital of the Northwest, and they're delivering on it big time. IMBA, the International Mountain Biking Cycling Association Ride Centre, has been approved there. Lots of investment going in there, federal, state investment going into infrastructure for all the kinds of trails. New businesses opening there, aligned with mountain biking. And a few weeks ago, they held several events. This is just a small community, and they generated $1.6 million over those 2 weekends. So it's a good success story by focusing on what they're best at. Grants Pass in southern Oregon as well, pretty poor focus. They, like many communities, had turned their backs on the river. It was just overgrown, inaccessible, the river. No distinct identity, and downtown was in a range war with everybody else in town. The positioning ended up being that Grants Pass is the classic river town on the legendary Rogue River. This became very quickly, this is about 10 years ago now, but a rallying point, now regarded very much as a success story. The city has reclaimed the waterfront, lots of new development going in along the waterfront, new businesses, forget the name of the fast boats going on the river, more fishing lodges. So it also stimulated rejuvenation of downtown as well. So this was a major catalyst that long ago did we forget talking about logos and taglines, didn't we? This is much more than that. It's living what you want your brand to be. Just a few more pitfalls to finish off on, and very important. What's the real reason why people buy things? Anything. Why do we buy things? There's only one reason why people have ever bought from you in the past and why they'll ever buy from you in the future. And that's because they want to change the way they feel. That's simple. Think about it. Why are you here today? You want to change the way you feel in some way. You want to improve maybe your contacts. You might want to improve your knowledge. Feel more confident in yourself because I know more about what the field is about. Go back through and think of every purchase that you can think of. Think of that black t-shirt before. How was that making the kid feel who was buying that t-shirt? It all comes back to feelings in some way. I couldn't help but take note this morning when you were putting up there, rural is. Did you notice that many of those were feelings? Really? How many of you have those kinds of words in your promotional literature? I'll come to that point in a moment. Feelings not found. This is when I have to get Wes to go outside and start the car for me so I can make a very quick getaway, because all the ladies will be chasing me with a chair or something out the door. What is Revlon's real product? Now, the answer to this was not mine. This was from Charles Revson, the founder and chairman of Revlon. What is Revlon's product? What are they selling? Vanity? You might have to come with me, Wes. Beauty, self-esteem, change. Okay, get her revved up, Wes. Oh, that's nice. I've never seen that before. Never seen that before. On the factory floor, our product is cosmetics, but in the department store, our product is hope. Okay? Now think about that. Think of the last ads that you saw for a beauty product like that. What are they saying? You too can look like this. Okay? Right. Sorry? Yeah, but that's all part of it, isn't it? Yeah, yes. Oh, come on, this is ridiculous. Okay. What we're selling a feeling of escape. So often you're providing a getaway for people who lead very harried, busy, rushed lives. You're really selling an opportunity for escape and romance. The location comes in second. You can provide that. You want to feel like a great parent in doing things. You don't just want to take people, your children to a location. It's because you're wanting to also feel better. Okay? You want to feel pampered and rewarded. I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I deserve this. That's what you're responding to. That's the product that you have to respond to. So much of this is in Utah. Freedom, exhilaration, adventure. You have to entice with emotion. Those things that you were speaking about this morning, rural ears, okay? Don't get people too trapped up in all the logic and facts and boring stuff like that too quickly, okay? Attract with emotion, verify with logic, okay? I commented on my wife's shoe closet, but my daughter's over here and she would tell my wife, but you get my drift. Here we go in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They're not selling just their concert dates. It's the imagery and things there that this is about fun, camaraderie, and excitement. Be part of it. I love this. This is in Wales, an area of outstandingly bad mobile reception. Okay? But what's it about? They're not selling their forest trails. It's about escape, rejuvenation, adventure. No boring facts there. Hit me here first, then hit me here. Some essentials for you as you set out and look at place branding. Be honest and realistic. Keep it real. Don't be something that you're not. You'll get caught out. Dare to be different. Courage. Sometimes there's not much courage. Be leaders. Don't play where you don't belong. Don't waste money on markets where you don't belong. You don't have the resources. Focus, focus, focus is what it's about. Make a valued promise. It's got to be valued. Just don't make a promise that nobody cares about. You've got to hone it down. It takes time to get this right. Then exceed your promise. And make sure you can grow with it to take you to new places and it won't be left behind. Hit the hearts, then the minds. Invest in experiences. That's what people are looking for. It's the experience. Whether it's business relocation, as Steve was saying about you're making it so much easier for people to do it. It's a team sport. As an economic development officer or a tourism person or a city information officer, this kind of thing's not going to work if it sits on your desk. You have to engage your stakeholders and your partners in it and build it. To a greater or lesser extent, it's everybody's business. Everybody in your community to a smaller or a greater extent. It takes courage and leadership and focus and consistency. The important thing is to focus on what? Get that right. Invest in getting that right. Remember, whether it's a large community or a small community, ambitious places must get these things right. If you want to play the game, if you want to win in the game, you've got to get all these factors right and don't keep changing them around. Get them right, stick with them. your customers, you are going to get tired of your advertising and marketing long before your customer has ever seen them. Stick with them. I'd like to finish with some words from my colleague Maura Gast, who's in Irving, Texas, at the CVB there. Build a place people want to visit, and you build a place where people want to live. Build a place where people want to live, and you'll build a place where people want to work. It's all linked. Build a place where people want to work, and you'll build a place where business has to be. Again, finally, don't forget about the people who you've got in your showroom. You've got prospects coming to you now to take advantage of many of these things that Steve was speaking about, okay? But you can't attract them with just lists of things, okay? You have to hit them in the heart first of all with those kinds of rural is type images. They're going to get me here first. They're going to get my family here first before your list of available land and other stats are going to do for me, okay? If you want more information, you can find articles, free articles on our website, my blog, Twitter, and also you can find my book on Amazon, or I do have today a few with me, and normally it's about $28 on Amazon. If you see Renee over here, she can give it to you for about $20, which is doing the post office out of some business, but that was it. Anyway, thank you very much. I don't know how we're doing for time here, but if you have any questions or see me... Oh, we've got 5 minutes. Any questions? Gee, I answered everything. Thank you very much. I am going to be in another session after this, and please, at any time through lunch, just come up, ask me any questions you have. Thank you very much.